Hi, can I test? Can you hear me, Michelle? Awesome.
Yes,
Okay,
I
cool.
can.
Perfect. I can hear you too. Thank you.
Mhm. Hi, Dan. Mhm.
Hey there. I'm trying to, so I have a new computer and I'm also the lone parent tonight. So I'm dealing with dinner behind me and the kids. So I'm kind of multitasking. So we'll get one, two, three. We need one more. I think we have four. Yeah, we've got four board members. We can get started. Just make some adjustments here. Here we go. All right, Robin, when you're ready.
Okay, you good to go. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the January 21st, 2025 regular meeting of the MCS Board of Directors. It's 5 p.m. We do not have any pre-submitted public comments, although I have had a few emails recently regarding just the work that we're doing in the school. They weren't submitted as public comments, but I just want you all to know that we get meetings from past employees and they're all positive and excited about the progress that we're all making as a school, as a community. So just wanted to share that. Item number 3, the changes and approval to agenda. Let me pop the agenda up here on the screen real quick. So in our agenda, we have a DOE update here. And when Brent joins, Brent's going to be on to go over that. So once he gets on here, we'll do that. We'll switch to that. So I guess the change in the agenda is that the DOE information will get moved up when we have Brent on to present. And so it's mostly just to clarify, we have an action item there with the DOE portion of our meeting tonight. Any questions on that before I proceed? And I can't see everyone when I'm sharing the screen, so please speak up. Okay, so that's going to be the change to the agenda. It's kind of a moving change. So when he gets here, we'll just slot him in whenever he gets here. Can I get a second to the approval of that change to the agenda?
I can second that.
Thanks, Emily. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voice proposition. All right, that brings us to item number 4, which is our business manager's report. And Michelle, you usually tackle that. If you want to tackle that in your ED report, you can do that as well.
Well, I think let me do it really quick because it should Veronica's been working really hard on getting all of the so when you go to the shared drive, you guys should have all access. I think everything was on there except for July. And I was going to just quickly we're still working on getting the kinks out of them. But if you go to the shared agenda, there's a let's see if I can find it. Anyway, there MCS oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, it's in the MCS shared file. There's one that says January or let's see, where did she do it? What did she do with it? We had it. Oh, it's under finance. And there on there you can look at all the different well, now I can't find it. I'm sorry. I had it. I think it's under shared. Sorry. I'll go let you go on. I'll come back to
I
it.
think
Sorry.
I can help you. It's under the shared, it's a board financials file. It actually says board financials/policies. Is
Yeah,
that
that's
what
what
you're
I.
looking for?
Okay, yeah. So if you go, I don't know.
And then we
Everyone
have
can share their
FY
screen. So
25 and
Okay, I've
FY
got it. I've
26.
got it. I just didn't see it in that one thing. So everything I was just going to check July. You know, she hasn't updated July. So everything is updated now except for July. She really appreciated having the board having the meeting one more week because it allowed her to get the December financials on there. And oh, I see Brent on there. Do you want to flip to Brent?
sure. Brent, you ready, buddy?
Oh, I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Worn out after a long day's
I
work,
did
I'm
stop
sure.
by 64 on the way though, so I'm not
Julia,
that ready.
Julia's trying to
Okay.
log on. Should we pause this?
She's here.
Oh, she's
Oh, I
in. Oh,
just
she
got in.
made.
Thank you, Marie.
Okay, she's in. All right.
Um, so sorry, I'm a little distracted because I'm multitasking. I've got all the kids by myself tonight. So just so you know, I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm just multitasking, and you know how that is. All right, Brent, what would you like me to put on the screen first? Would you like me to send out bring up that 7-page doc to share, or do you just want to talk about it initially? What are your thoughts
I'd
there?
say this ought to be pretty straightforward. I mean, I think you've all seen the document. The gist of it is this, as you all remember, well, you may not remember, but I think you're aware that way back when we put out an RFP in 2022 for the HVAC project, we got a whopping 0 respondents. And we had, while the board had approved the funding and contracting, talking to the lawyers after that, they said, hey, under the Oregon procurement rules, that's not quite enough. You need to give a notice that essentially you're going to want to move forward with a award for the contract that is outside competitive bidding. Even though we opened competitive bidding, nobody participated, and therefore we need the board would need to essentially approve an exemption to it. And the findings were sent to me by the school's lawyer. The new lawyer is David Bowser. I filled in the filled in the blank, so to say. It is not, just to be clear, I'm not a lawyer and I can't give you legal advice. I can give you project lead advice, which is the formal title I think I was bestowed on several years ago for the DOE project. So, and basically, but David's comment is this: look, one, we had to post notice, which we did in the Daily Journal of Commerce, saying that what you intend to do is basically adopt an exemption from the Oregon procurement rules because of the fact that A, we didn't get any bidders when we applied. And then there's in the findings kind of lay out a host of findings again that we plugged and chugged based on what David sent us. But the two main things are, hey, we tried. We put out this RFP, nobody responded. And then two, there were a couple specific things, and we could talk about any of these if anyone wants to. But one, that the exemption, these are the legally findings according to David. The exemption's unlikely to encourage favoritism in awarding of the public improvement contract or substantially diminish competition for the public improvement contract. And two, awarding a public improvement contract under the exemption will likely result in substantial cost savings and other substantial benefits to the local contracting agency. And basically, there's a number of additional subpoints that I'm sure you've looked at in this 7-page document that you would be essentially adopting with a draft motion that I'm happy to read to you unless Dan has it in front of him. But the heart of it is, look, nobody else applied. Piper Mechanical, in fact, after over a year of trying to reach out to other contractors and potential contractors, was really the only ones that responded, gave us a bid, gave us a design, and has stuck with us through the whole grant process, et cetera. These are the same guys who designed the project. So one of the public benefits talked about in the findings is that, look, we're in the unique and strategically intended position of having the same entity that would install the HVAC project are the same guys that did the electrical service upgrade. That was the kind of key first step to getting the HVAC project. They're the same guys that designed the system. So you essentially got one person responsible if something goes wrong, and that's a pretty nice position to be in. So I don't think I need to say any more unless folks have questions. Well, two other things to point out. One, the mechanics of this is we had previously talked about doing one large contract with Piper Mechanical. And instead, what this motion does is it essentially breaks that down into two contracts. And Piper's actually in the process. They needed a proof of funds, which Veronica graciously got them in very short order tonight, and they're on their way to send us two updated contracts, which they've done. This was in response to Department of Energy recommending that we should not go in for a budget modification. And I do want to explain this to you, and anyone ask any questions if you have it. Because the price of the HVAC was significantly more than originally estimated, if we were to go through with the whole HVAC project underneath the through the DOE project, then we would have to go in through budget modification. There's a lot of, I think, uncertainty around this program and others, given the change in administration, et cetera. And it was recommended that we do whatever we can to avoid that. We proposed to DOE the potential to split the project with essentially Mosier School paying for the heating part of the HVAC project and as a standalone, and then the us working in coordination with the DOE grant to DOE on the remainder of the project, which would be for the originally planned 590,000. That would include all the ventilation and some of the other components. Piper's now updated their contract. So we've got one contract for $590,000, which is exactly what was in the DOE budget. So this would avoid that. And then the second part of it is that as a contract for 379,000, that would be done just kind of a Mosier standalone. Together, it equals the same amount that was in their prior budget. But just that second part would, one kind of side benefit is that whereas before we were going to have some delays in the HVAC system, because if it's under the DOE project, we would need to comply with the Buy American, Build American standard. There's no way to do that for the heating equipment. So we would have had a pretty long delay waiting for a waiver. And the way it's set up now, and this is all stuff we ran by Department of Energy's contact, Michelle Tang, and she gave the thumbs up to the way it is now. Mosier's going to kind of pay for the heating part of the project by itself, which you can do. Great. We're going to still report to the Department of Energy. Look, we did it all. We had said we were going to do it in the grant, and now we just did it on our side. You guys paid for the whole HVAC, the ventilation part. I don't think, and Michelle didn't think that there would be some, hand slapping or something related to that, but it is a change from what we had proposed. Given, I think, some of the big picture uncertainties, this is probably our best path forward. I don't want to say it's completely risk-free, but given the alternative risks, this seems like the best way to go. We can sign the contract. If I just got it, I think sending it to the lawyer makes sense. But you guys, I think, could do to essentially just approve the exemption and then give the authority to Michelle to sign consistent with the thumbs up from the lawyer after they've reviewed both contracts. It's the same contract that David Bowser's underling Matt, our prior attorney, had signed. So he felt quite confident it had everything in it that it needed, but probably not a bad idea to have him take a quick look at it, and then we can get that signed. And Piper says they're as short of a month out from being able to begin work. So
Awesome. Thank you, Brent, for that really detailed update. It really, I think, brings everybody on board to where we're at. Does anyone have any questions for Brent regarding where we are now, how we got here, kind of this division of the contracts into two, or anything he discussed tonight? And I do have the motions ready when you were ready. Go ahead, Emily.
I just as one point, Marie, I saw you blacken your screen, and I think you wanted to recuse yourself, but I'm not sure if you did that or not yet.
Hey, everybody. Yes, I had recused myself, I think when we first started discussions of the DOE project. Of course, because Matthew is the OPM. And of course, I'm serving on the board, so there's conflict of interest, and I made it clear. So I would recuse myself from voting, as I have in all previous meetings to date.
Great.
And, I just blacked my screen out to just make it easier on everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Can't hear you, Emily.
Oh, darn.
There you go. Now I can.
Oh, you can? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, quick question on page 1. Get to it really quick. On page 1, right under background nature of the project, it starts with Oregon Charter Academy. Is that another term for Mosier
No.
Community School, or is that supposed to be pulled out?
Where are you at? No, typo.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
There we go.
Yep,
Let's fix that to that will
Mosier
say
Community School.
MCS. Again, I mentioned the lawyer sent us a template, and I thought I had pulled all those out, but not so apparently.
I only saw it once when I was reviewing, and it's just under the background section, the first sentence.
Thank you. I've got an updated copy that I'm going to send over to you all right now, and if that could be the reference with the edits, that'd be great.
Thanks, Emily.
With DOE to get that advice on the contracts and not expanding the project budget.
I missed the first part of that.
I just was appreciating you reaching out to DOE on not changing the project scope or the budget modification. That was good information to have.
Yeah, and Matt, I'll just let's do this. I think it's worth giving you guys one other kind of just update related to the solar, given your last thing. But I think it makes sense to kind of go through this, do it, and then 2 minutes to bring you up to speed on that.
Regarding the engineering and whatnot, Brent.
Yeah, and apologies. That just went, but
The proposal in front of us.
I got Emily, McKenna, Marie,
Just send
Dan,
an update. Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Abelia. There we go. Anyone else I'm not seeing on the screen?
McKenna.
I got McKenna.
Okay. There's 7 total.
There you go.
8, Michelle.
I got Michelle. Do you want me to update? Do you want me to do a quick lowdown on the solar or
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to just understand the changes that are happening and kind of where we're shifting to
yep.
to meet those, engineering and building limitations.
Do you want to do the motion on the exemption now?
Sure.
Any other discussion? Here? We'll do that.
One second here. All right, the motion would be to consider exemption to State of Oregon Procurement Statute ORS 279 to approve planned HVAC upgrade and related electrical upgrades with pipe and mechanical. So Marie, I'll send this to you. So you have the text, but I'll say it again, is consider exemption to State of Oregon Procurement Statute ORS 279 to approve planned HVAC upgrade and related electrical upgrades with pipe and mechanical. It's the motion. Can I get a second? Thank you, McKenna. Is that a second? Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed? Please voice your opposition. Motion passes. All right, we can go with the solar, Brent.
Just real quick, last time we all talked, the board had approved kind of trying to fast track acquisition of solar panels. As a part of that, Matt had, in coordinating with Scott Sorensen, the local solar provider, had got an engineer. We found an engineer that I'm working with, but Scott's worked with before, came out, looked at the school, and basically said solar panels are too heavy for the roof. At least the panels we'd been looking at. Matt had what I thought was a super creative idea of using, there's a different type of solar panel that's called thin film. It's basically a very lightweight membrane, doesn't have a big frame, doesn't require racking, kind of sticks to the roof. And so far it looks like that will likely be a good option. Matt met with the Wasco County Building Department. Uh, and it seemed to at least get a tentative thumbs up that they could go along with that. And we need an engineer to kind of sign off on a couple minor things. Well, at least somewhat minor, mainly just that it would weighs very little. Basically, I think the couple things just to flag for the board and shoot up any uh, warnings or something if you're not okay with it is no surprise the roof doesn't meet current code in terms of load. It's a big, strong, beefy 2x12 roof, but the spans are too long. And so that's why we wouldn't be able to add a decent amount more weight to it. I think Matt and I both feel really good that adding what's literally less than a half pound per square foot of these membrane panels is no big deal. And that's kind of the goal right now. I'm these are much less common. Rosars uses them. They've worked well for Rosars. They've actually been cooperating with Matt and getting him info on who installs them and everything. But leave it to said that this is something we're still got on the fast track, but hasn't been done yet. But that's the reason why. And if anyone has any concerns, talk to me after. We can chat about it now. But I just wanted to give you that update. We're still working on it, and Matt's been putting a lot of time into getting it all figured out.
Do we know the output comparison?
Well, generally, it's going to be less, depending on what kind. It may not determine maybe a meaningful amount less or not that much less. Some of the panels that Matt's found actually haven't been that much less in terms of energy density. Generally, the thin films are less. You can generate less per square inch or per square foot, but it's kind of we're still looking at a couple different options. We haven't found any that are made in the US. It all seems to be overseas. Scott Sorensen's expecting a quote any day back from his suppliers on what the membrane option would cost. So I assume it's going to be less, but it still would be significant, a pretty significant contribution, and we'll just have to see when the specs come out.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brent regarding that update on the solar?
Question on the project in general. Do we have any better of a sense now about the likelihood of the grant tanking or than we did last time, just given where we are in the transition?
I think everything we've generally heard from DOE is they feel like our grant that were issued in our term are pretty safe, not without uncertainty, just given the nature of it, and so I would kind of say be cautiously optimistic, but it's definitely something I know everybody at DOE will be interested in watching, as will we. So, but I mean, generally these are, grants that have been awarded. People have spent money on them as we have, and so keep
When I
things.
look at it and think, go ahead, Michelle.
Well, the Veronica had met with that Michelle Tang, and Veronica asked that question, and I think there's different rounds, and we were like the first round, and so they felt very confident. It was the people that were in the second round that they're not as confident. Veronica is submitting the first to get some money back, because we're going to try that with the Land Electric. That was 49,000 for the upgrade of the LED lights, and so she's in the process of doing that right now. So we'll see how smoothly that goes.
And also, I just want to note, like, woohoo, we got the first thing done under this grant, which was the updated LED lights, and thanks to Tito for making it happen. But it is nice to, after all this time, actually have something happening on the ground. And
Yeah, I think DOE was like, don't you have something? They were waiting for us to submit something, so they were super
Yeah,
happy for doing
they were
that.
excited.
I guess my point would be on that. Most of the changes seem to be going forward. It seems like, hey, we're not going to be a part of this world program from now on out. And I haven't seen a lot of like retroactive, we're going to go back and try to get money back or anything like that. So if we think of that with our project, and it's a fiscal year thing, so it's a July to July, we're within, in that current budget, not the future budget. I see a lot of changes probably going forward with future budgets, so it's good that we're on this side of that. But it would take a lot of extra work to try and unwind things and cause a lot of chaos. And I mean, chaos is already part of the process, but it would cause a lot more chaos to try and unwind a lot of things that are already dedicated, spent, allocated, all that kind of stuff. So I feel fairly confident as well, even though we are in a time of uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, we're rocking forward, like, full steam ahead. So unless we hear otherwise.
Yeah. And thanks, Michelle, for getting on with that email from Lars today about just getting on with our financials so we can keep that going. That was nice and quick, and that made it easy.
Veronica already sent it to him. Lars already sent me both copies of the contract. He had them ready. So my plan is just send those on to the lawyers, and copy Dan and Michelle, and hopefully just get a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brent.
Yeah, the suggestion was we could have put a deposit down, or the financial, and I asked her what she'd prefer. The financial was obviously better, so, and they seem pretty
Mhm.
happy. So.
Easier for us to get reimbursement later than to try to put a deposit down and somehow get reimbursement for something that's not spent yet. Any more questions for Brent? Brent, do you have any more comments about
Good.
that? Okay. Thank you so much for your time and the work you're
Thank
putting
y'all.
in on this. I know it's a lot, and it's really appreciated. I don't know
You
how
guys
else
do the hard work. You sit through all the meetings. I give you that. So
No.
yeah.
you
Thanks.
put a lot of work into this, so thank you.
And big thanks to Matt. He's really been doing a lot of heavy lifting, and appreciate it. So,
Good job, team.
okay, see y'all.
Thanks, Brent.
Bye bye.
All right, so that finishes up our DOE update, which is item number 9. That'll bring us back to number 4, business manager report. Michelle, do you want to carry on with that? Our link from the. Thank you. Sorry, you're muted.
There you go. Wait, when you share your screen, it's really hard. But
Yeah.
yeah. So there's several different things that you can look at. I feel this one's just the easiest one for me to look at. When she says over budget, I don't think it's actually that we're over budget. It's really what's left of the budget. So the student fees is really the preschool. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but our earnings of investments. And so the thing that I look at mostly is the salaries, because that is where like 80% of our budget is. And we spent in December, the end of December, 42%. And that's halfway through the year, because right, July, August, September, October, November, December. Yep. So 42%, we're in good at that. So I feel pretty good about that. The capital outlay is way over, and we all know, because we've been doing extra projects to kind of get caught up on that. We're going to do a better job of budgeting that for next year. And now that we have some of these, that's going to make the budget process a little bit easier for us. And then everybody should be able to, the nutrition services doesn't look great. I think we're still trying to get because it was all going through North Wasco, and now it's supposed to be all going to us. And I think there's kind of a lag for that. So we're working on that. And then the other one that I think is probably pretty important is just this, the financial position. This is just kind of telling you, what do we have currently in our bank account, and what are our liabilities. And so the nice thing is we're right around 3 million. So I think we're doing well financially. So any questions on that? Stop share. Veronica and I continue to meet every Monday at 10 to kind of go over what we're doing. She is working really hard to get as many bills that we have, especially the utilities, all on automatic payment, to kind of get the process. That just makes for easier billing process. I met with Regina Sampson, who is the CFO at Corbett. She was at Baker City prior to that. She's very knowledgeable. She gave us a couple of good people to go talk to and look at, and she's going to help us put together procedures for the business manager, and so that we because there's nothing right now, and that will really make it better for when we do the audit. The audit is going along. It had a little snafu, but I think we're now on a pretty good pace. There's only about 4 or 5 more things. What Veronica says is they'll ask for a group of things that we'll give them to that. They'll ask us for another group of things. So we're on like this 3rd round of stuff. So we're just hoping that we're close to being, the hope is that it's done by February or March. We have an extension until June. We should not need that, but we seem to be on a good trajectory with that. I talked to Summer Seegers about how can we get it more online or timely. And it's when we're done with this one, we're just going to go right in and ask for the other one and start preparing for it. So that's it.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions for Michelle related to the business manager report? Okay, that brings us to our treasurer's report. Available can't be here tonight. She has something come up, so we'll cover that in our next meeting. Item number 6 is our MTA report with our MTA reps, Mary Ellen and Lisa.
Hello all. Our first report comes from Sarah Grace. She says, "Good evening, MCS board. I wanted to say thank you to all that made it possible for me to take a much needed maternity leave with my baby. Christina Sabali did an excellent job as the teacher in my classroom. Michelle and Jen worked hard to make sure everything was covered while I was gone. I'm so thankful for their willingness to make sure I could spend time with my family. Now that I am back in the classroom, we are having fun getting back into the swing of things. In math, students are rocking their fractions and exponents. In science, we are learning about the sun and Earth's rotations. We made sundials and have been making trips outside to watch the shadows change according to the time of day, which I believe at the time that she wrote this was not easy because of the cloudy weather, but hopefully it's been easier since we've had some sun. In social sciences, we have a speaker coming to teach our class about salmon and the Celilo Falls. We also have salmon eggs in the hallway to watch the salmon life cycle. She continues to say that MCS purchased Lucy Calkins' units of study for our writing curriculum, and we have thoroughly enjoyed diving into the material and teaching students to become confident writers. Students have started writing current events in the morning, and we were able to see live action on the California wildfires, as well as live eagle's nest with 2 eaglets. 4-5 is having a great start to the new year. The other 4-5 teacher, Anne Marie, writes in, "We started a space unit where students are exploring Earth's rotations and its effects on day to and night through hands-on activities like simulations and discussions. They're also diving into the Industrial Revolution, analyzing the impact on society and developing personal argumentative essays on related topics. In math, 4th graders are focusing on long division, practicing both division with remainders and multi-digit division problems." In 2-3, we've introduced and begun a poetry study. We're learning about different types of poems, reading poems, writing poems, memorizing and reciting poems, and creating mental images while doing so. The students continue to love reading anytime they can. We will begin a new science study the beginning of February, changes in the Earth's surfaces, and we're jazzed about diving in. We continue to learn about cultures by recognizing Lunar New Year at the end of this month. In math, 2nd grade is continuing to practice addition and subtraction of 2-digit numbers with regrouping, and 3rd grade has transitioned from multiplication to division and relating the two. The middle school has had a bit of a change since we've returned from winter break. The 3rd rotation in the morning, which used to be the study hall, is now going to serve our students in a different way. They found that it was a lot of idle time and most kids were using it in a less than desirable way. So now Mondays will be art STEM led by the admin team. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the health curriculum, Our Whole Lives, OWL, led by Avery Dean. Thursdays are study hall, and Friday is the community service day. Each student has been given a location in our school to serve for that 50 minutes. The goal is to do this after spring break, until after spring break, and at this point, students might have the opportunity to serve off campus, behavior pending. Many of the kids have shown that they are really excited to help. For example, the kids who help in pre-K love it, and the boys who helped Mitch last week got to build raised beds and smash a broken desk. Needless to say, they liked working with their hands. K1 is starting to have a visitor from the library visit on the first Wednesday of each month. She'll be reading stories to the students and teaching them how to use B-bots, little programmable by code robots that look like bees. And from Nathan in music, he says, "Dear MCS family, Happy New Year from the music room. We're all very excited to be putting hands-on instruments this month. Since our return, students have been learning to hold, create sound, and properly care for the ukulele. Our goal for the near future is to get more comfortable with this new instrument, picking out melodies and creating harmony. As we progress, singing along will be highly encouraged. We're off to a great start, and I am very excited to hear how things evolve over the next few weeks. As always, thank you so much for your continuous dedication, interest, and support. What a wonderful group to be part of. Thank you, team. And I echo that. Thank you, team. Yes, thank you.
Thank you for that update. I think it's Michelle and I were talking a little bit today just over text, and just there were 4 staff out today, and the staff pulled together and managed, and there was a substitute lined up. Substitute got sick or had a sick child, had to go home. So thank you so much for the work you do. I know it's not always easy, and a lot of times you're short staffed, but you make it work and you make it happen. And it's awesome to see that, that come together where the school can still operate. So thank you for your hard work. Any questions for our MTA reps?
I'm sorry, I missed what Thursday is designated for the middle school
Study hall.
study hall. Thank
Yep,
you.
there you go. I'd like to piggyback on what Dan said and just say thank you to admin also for both pitching in and making it go smoothly, and the open communication about it too.
I'd just like to voice my appreciation to everyone that wrote in an update. It's always one of the highlights of the board meeting for me to hear from the classrooms. I think it's part of what motivates, at least I can speak for myself, motivates me is just hearing about the school community. And I apologize for being on and off screen. I have a sick baby that I'm juggling.
Thank you, Julia, for making that point. It's really important. I feel the same way. Our next item is item number 7, which is the MTA collective bargaining process. Generally, in the past, we started this later on in the year in March, but it's always made it so that we're kind of pushing late and having a hard time getting wrapped up before we need to be done. So with Michelle's direction, we're starting this early this year, and I think it's a good idea. It's an action item tonight, and what we need to do is identify 2 board members who would like to be a part of the bargaining process. It's a good time to meet, and in the past few bargaining sessions, we've worked in a collective manner to try and make sure that we're looking at the big picture. We're trying to make sure that we look from the student out. We want to make sure that we can attract and retain great teachers, and that starts with the collective bargaining process and their benefits and pay. And those things, just so everyone knows, generally carry over to all of our staff as far as whatever the COLAs are that we agree with, whatever those kinds of things. We generally share that with everyone. So this is open for discussion at the moment. Some board members, Emily, Julia, and Evalia, are up for re-election, I believe. Is that correct, Julia? I think so.
I don't know.
I think you'll be up for re-election in May to June, but we should hopefully have that wrapped up before then. So I'm just putting it out there.
Already? How's that possible?
You're ready for 3 more, I know.
The sheet today, and that is the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just bring that up only just as an aside. We should have that process wrapped up before then, but I just wanted to bring that up just so members are aware and that keep that in mind. So as we have the discussion, I've been on this a couple times. I'm happy to help out again, but I think it's also important that people step up and are involved so that the knowledge of the process is carried through for future generations of board members. So with that, please discuss. Any questions, any comments, concerns? The process has been pretty straightforward in the past, and generally it's an intersection of administration's wants towards changing the contracts to meet any issues that may come up, but also what the most important items are for the MTA and our employees. Generally in the past, it's been salary because we were low, salary and benefits the last time. And then I think those things continue forward. but I won't speak for the MTA on that. That will be something that they bring forward.
I did it, I think was it with Emily last year? I would be happy to serve again, but I'm also very happy to have somebody else do it if they want to learn how it all works. We had a very knowledgeable sort of intermediary, I think his name was Alan, who had been done it for many, many years. So I also think that made the process really smooth because he was very familiar with it all. And I know he was retiring. So, I don't know who the new person is in that role. There may be more to discuss, but it was, I think it was 2 meetings last time that went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it will be more, this is like actually the whole entire contract instead of you guys were just doing a small piece of it. This will be going through the whole entire contract. So the process, I assume we'll probably try to meet, I'd like to start in February, and because Mary Ellen and Lisa and I don't want to be doing this, and Jen don't want to be doing it during the summertime. Do we? No. Anyway, and it also helps with our budgeting that we know kind of where we're going as well. So I kind of think that we'll probably meet maybe a couple times in February, and then hopefully maybe a time or 2 in March. And then the goal is to have it ready for your approval by May, June at the latest. So.
And Alan, just to go ahead.
Well, and Mary Ellen, is it Christine? Who's the new person? Is it Christine?
Her name is Christine, and she's very knowledgeable and great. I mean, she's newer at this position than Alan was, but she's a wealth of knowledge and can find the information she needs to find pretty easily.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to working with her.
Yeah, and I hope it's more like a conversation going back and forth, and like, what do we, what needs to be addressed, and what are, and that's the hope, is it's just a nice conversation.
That is the hope. Yes.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
And that's what it always has been. So looking forward to that again.
So Julia, you're willing to do it if this position is open. Marie, Emily, McKenna, anyone else feel strongly or passionately about this?
Something that we talked about with Kristen Miles last time we did a board training, and since Nathan is now employed and part of the MTA, it was something that it sounded like it probably is best for me not to be in that position. This time around. Yeah. And I think it almost sounded, we needed to get more, advice, but it almost sounded like Tiffany probably shouldn't either because of her relationship. Yeah.
I can see volunteering next year, but as of this year, I do not have the ability.
No problem. Marie, how do you feel?
Seat is getting very warm. Well, if I guess it would be who, Avelia and I left. The policy committee,
or Dan, right? Dan, you said you'd be willing to do it. So
yeah, I'm happy to do it. I just want to give the option to anyone else who wants to. So I enjoy doing it, but I don't want to take a seat from someone else who wants to do it.
No, I would love to do it. However, I think I'd be stretching myself really thinly, and but maybe next year.
The next cycle.
Yeah, it will be in 3 years, hopefully. That is also the plan.
Sometimes, so just so context there, last time we left the healthcare as an opener just because we weren't sure where we were at. And so you may have mid-cycle negotiations that are smaller that come up. And that's just that sometimes happens when financial pictures are unclear or insurance options and things like that. And that's just something that's mutually agreed upon between the MTA and all parties involved.
Yeah, it's something you try to tend to not do, because once you open a contract, you open the whole entire contract. So it's not necessarily a great practice. So Dan, it might be nice because you have done a contract, and then to have Julia, who has like you've done that process, to have somebody who's done it and somebody who's new to it, and you're just always kind of, having somebody who has had experience and somebody who hasn't, and then next time maybe you don't do it, somebody else does it. So, and
Certainly.
then Julia's the expert on it.
Go ahead, Emily.
Also thinking about succession planning for the board and recording our processes. This is another good opportunity to track the process as we go and put it on paper. So that's something that I would be happy to help with. Just track the outline as you go through the process, or somebody who's actually participating in the negotiations could track.
I think it just, as long as we have an outline of what that means, so we make sure that the deliverables are met. You know what I mean? So whatever tracking the process means, making sure that whatever that means, we meet the deliverables on that, so we can make sure that the idea is realized going forward. That hey, whatever that, I'm happy to do that, but I just want to make sure that I meet whatever the criteria are, or whatever the desired outcome is of that.
Be something as easy as creating like a process outline as you all are moving forward, like along with a calendar of like, start the process in February, goal is to finish it in May, and here's how many meetings we had, here's when you involved the legal team, that kind of stuff, just to track those milestones so that it can go in our succession plan. And moving forward, when some of us have moved on from the board, we have a record of what it looks like to open the contract negotiations and go through with it.
And
We had a
Chris,
document that we used last time that was pretty prescriptive on how it worked. There's a prescribed path forward, and generally with the whole contract, you're looking at each article. So there's articles to the contract. You're reviewing each article. If no member has any problems with any parts of the article, you both TA it, tentatively approve it as it is. You move on to the next article. If there's changes to the article that you want to adopt, then you adopt those changes, or you have a discussion on those things and you come to an agreement, you TA it, you move to the next one. So generally that's how it's worked in the past. And then there's benchmarks along the way of, we have X amount of articles we want to get through. Let's get to these in this meeting, these in this, and then that way it stays on track. Michelle, you had something, is that what you were going to say?
well, I was also going to say, sometimes the union has, like, I'm not sure how the North Wasco, that Christine, how they operate, but a lot of times unions also have a document that they're following. So we have to ask Christine about that too. So.
Yeah, I think, what's nice about this contract versus contracts I'm involved in at work, or any other contracts where it's a larger organization. It's a really small organization here. And so we can, the financials are open. Everything's fairly open. So there's not a lot of ambiguity. There's not a lot of like weird back and forth. It's all the cards are pretty much on the table. And so it's a matter of, hey, how can we accomplish these things with the resources that we have? It's over the last few times, it's been an easy, open process. And the first one I was involved in a long time ago was not as easy. So it's nice to see the way it's been the last few times, and I'd like to try and continue that, so that it just keeps, we're all friends here, and it keeps us that way, and that's the goal. Like we can do this as a small community and do it the right way, and that's, in my mind, that's the way I would want to continue it. Any other discussion or questions on the collective bargaining process or the action item that's identifying two members? So far, it seems like it's myself and Julia. Okay. Make a motion then that the board as a whole empowers Julia and I to act as the bargaining members with the MTA, and to bring that, to update the board as a whole on that process and bring the information forward as it comes available. Go ahead, McKenna. Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voice for opposition? Motion passes. Marie, would you like any parts of that restated?
Would you mind just recapping? Yeah, the whole thing.
The board is going to empower myself and Julia, so Dan Watson and Julia, to negotiate with the MTA in the collective bargaining process and inform the board of the progress in the negotiations as it moves along. Michelle, go ahead.
Can you make sure that the ED is also involved in that? So thanks.
For the,
And I think
uh,
Jen would like to join the process because for her admin license, it would be a good process for her to be part of.
Yeah, I've been in them on the union side, but I'd love to be in it now.
okay, so you'll sit in with the ED as okay. Yeah. So
Should we
as far as the
start
board's yeah, so as far as the board's concerned, we're the two members of the board. We do negotiate with ED and MTA together. So as far as the motion is concerned, it stands. But just for clarification for everyone who's here, that the three members in the process, the three groups are the board, the ED, and the MTA. Right.
Thank you.
Marie, do you need more clarification? I'm happy to provide it if there's anything that's not clear.
Thank you so much.
Okay. That brings us to item number 8, which is our executive director report. Michelle, and do you want to share your screen or would you like me to share it? Thank you.
You're muted, Michelle.
Okay, there we go. I sent it out early so you could kind of look at it, but I have added a couple of things. Currently we're at 161, which is actually technically we're really at, well, not technically. We're more like at 168. We have 7 students that are out of the country and should be returning in late January or February. One family was supposed to be back July 13th, but they're having car issues, and so hopefully they'll be back by then. We have 9 pre-K students that are registered and attending, and we have one that just filled out an application and one that's coming on a tour on Friday. So we have potentially 2 more. The application to attend is up and running. It's on our website. We've sent it out. You got a little press in the Columbia Gorge News. I'm probably going to look at advertising a little bit in the Columbia Gorge as well. Currently, we have had 4 kindergartners apply to attend, one grade 5, one grade 7, and one grade 8 student, and we'll just kind of keep that open. It stays open until March 30th. And then we'll kind of see where we're at as far as numbers at that point. This is kind of really good news for us is the ESD now has a whole child nurse administrator. They have a nurse administrator for the ESD. She's going to be coming out on Friday to kind of, I guess I want to see what services she will actually offer for us. That is very exciting because we have a potential student that's a diabetic next year. And so we need to be really in place with our student services and having a nurse oversee that. Curriculum, they've already talked about the morning routines, so I'm not going to cover that. We're currently doing a health curriculum called Our Lives Matter. Avery Dean is running that along with Rosemary Lancy and Lisa Stevenson. We had 2 parent meetings as required by the curriculum. At one, we had, I think, 11 parents at the 2:31 on Wednesday. We had 6 parents on the Thursday at 5:30. Lots of great conversation. Well, Wednesday had lots of great conversation and questions. Thursday was a little bit quieter. That particular group was a lot quieter. All parents had an opportunity to opt out of the curriculum. Because this is a curriculum that is about, sexual health and identity. It is a very, I'm not familiar. I haven't been very familiar with this program. I've been getting a lot more familiar with the program. I think they've used it in the past and it's gone very well. We're using it with a lot more fidelity this year, kind of doing the whole entire thing instead of just pieces of it. We've had a lot of parents very excited about it. But we've also had 4 parents opt their students out. 3 of them were 6th graders and 1 was an 8th grader. That is their, absolute right to do that. Those students will go into a study hall during that time. I'm not sure. Oh, something happened here. The second round of our intervention is happening right now. It's trying really hard. Even though we've had so many staff members out, they worked really hard. Students have been working on iReady diagnostics, and then we have our EAs for the literacy with Janet Baker are trained in DIBBLS, and so they're sitting down with students going through all the good things like, do they know their letter sounds? Can they put sounds together? And then the nice thing is the second round, we get to compare the first round of assessments with the second round assessments. And fingers crossed, we see some progress in that. We have tomorrow our Unit 2 letters meeting. Letters is it's the professional development to help our teachers learn how young minds learn how to read, and then how to kind of diagnose, look at what's happening and how to help our students become readers. 7 out of our 11 staff members, we have 11 staff members taking this course. 7 are on track to receive a $350 stipend. They have to actually finish these online units and then attend our meeting tomorrow to be eligible for that stipend. That's half of the stipend. It's a $700 stipend, which is grant funded with our SIA. Tomorrow I led the first round of it, which I have gone through the letters training already. It's a 2-year training. I am bringing in Summer Bell Watkins. She's a literary specialist from Corbett. She's probably one of the best. She's just an amazing professional development person. She is, so she's going to be coming tomorrow at 11 o'clock because we had a lot of our K1 teachers would have lots of questions to ask her. And so she's kind of going to go into classrooms and meet with Janet Baker to just see how we are on track for helping our young kids, K3, our young readers learning how to read. Any questions? Trying to talk fast. Strategic planning, we are going to be meeting with the staff on February 5th and the 19th for a moonshot activity. Jen's going to lead that. And then we're also meeting February 5th after that to kind of start drafting our goals. So the hope is to have some goals for you by March. Is that right, Emily? I think by March, yeah, we decided. Bill Noonan is going to be out of the country for a while, so he gave us homework to do. And we're on it. Financial, as I said, I met with Regina Sampson. She did give me some ideas about, we had met, Veronica and I had talked to these people at Tyler Tech that do accounts payables and payroll, just to give us some better software for QuickBooks is not necessarily school friendly. This is what Regina, what most school districts use. It's very expensive, but she said that actually any ESD can host us. And so I have reached out to the High Desert, should be the ESD. She said that they can host. Veronica's actually has some people she's familiar with there, and we're going to see if they would host us for the 25-26 school year. So that wouldn't happen until July, but there's a lot to go there. She also gave us an idea about Frontline can help us with our budgeting forecast, which we're going to start beginning also in the month of February. And we're working on getting business office procedures written down of what we're doing in practice. One of the ideas that I think Regina's going to share some of hers with us, but she said also just to ask around and see what other school districts have in place, grab a bunch of them and then take what's going to work for our office as well. We had to move one of our classified staff members to the preschool full-time because we're at 9, possibly 10 or 11. We do have one student that's a little bit higher needs, but they seem to be working in pretty well. And so because of that switch, we didn't have to hire anybody else because we had another classified staff member that was 0.625 FTE. They basically work 7 to 1. I'm sorry, 7:30 to 1. And now that particular person can stay until 2:30. So we just were able to shift that around a little bit. My hope is to be posting for a middle school position because I think that we're going to need that for next year to have 3 middle school teachers, and we're probably going to need to start that posting now so that we can not be in a rush to get someone, but to really get a high quality person in that position. Jan, you want to talk a little bit about the educator effectiveness evaluations that you're working on?
Sure. So I I took what the district did. They had a pretty substantial evaluation system, and I made it really our own. I've met with staff members who volunteered to be part of that. And then also Michelle, who was the person that I met with, or where were they from?
The ESD.
Okay, it was the ESD. So then someone from the ESD also met with me to just look at it. She really liked what we had so far. So we're going to move into piloting an evaluation tool for Michelle and I so that we can give that a try. So it's looking really good. So I think Michelle and I are ready to start using one of the templates.
We need to get going on that because and this is something we need to talk about by March 15th that we have to give you who we're going to renew contracts for. It's going to be a little tricky because I think our board meeting is on like the 17th or the 19th. So I'm not sure we would be able to have that ready by the February meeting, but we'll do our best to do that because that is a state of Oregon thing that we have to have what we're doing on that. So we might possibly have to have a special board meeting, but I think Jen and I can kind of whip out those a couple of, I mean, I'm not worried about anybody's renewing anybody's contract. I'm pretty sure we're going to renew most everybody's contract, but we do need to have the evaluations in place before we do that.
On that,
okay.
with moving the meeting 1 week further back, assist in that. Okay, let's explore that.
Okay.
So that would be the March meeting. So let's explore does that mean we need to move the February meeting or the March meeting? The March meeting further back?
If we move the March meeting, because I think the March meeting, hold on a second, is it would have to just be a week before. The March meeting is on the 17th?
17th.
Is it the 17th? Okay. So if we did it like on the 13th or the 14th, that might help us. But let's see how we're doing because we might be able to get that for February.
Okay.
I mean, we have a small staff, that should be easy to do. Going on to facilities, we have our new double oven has been installed. Thank you to Scott Pyatt for doing that for us yesterday. It's really tall. So we're looking at, it's on like these stilts almost. But Richard's very happy that he has two actual working ovens. So we're going to be a little bit more efficient for getting food out to our students. We're also going to start working on planning for the upgrades. The counters are really in need of we need to of being replaced. They're falling apart. There's a lot of rot in them. And so I'm going to hopefully bring a couple people in to kind of look at how can we make sure that it's efficient use of space. Most of the countertops that we're going to replacing them with are going to be more like stainless steel, so they're easier to clean. They're going to last a little longer. They won't be susceptible to the rot from the all the water that's on them. So, and Richard will be part of that. So, we're looking at updating the garage to hold music students, and also there'll be a room in there to for our secured files. The hope is to do that in September 2025. Don's working on getting bids and checking with local permitting. We're a little worried about the local permitting on that. And so Brent, I think, has told us it could be a challenge. Scott is working with it. We've been trying to get a hold of the city administrator for Mosier, but that hasn't. I think Don's just going to walk down there one day because nobody's returning phone calls. And then we also are looking at ordering a Connex box that would be in where the parking lot is, the south part of the parking lot, that we could move a lot of the stuff that's in the garage out there. And that would, Mitch would be pretty excited. We just have a lot of stuff that could be put in that box that would free up that garage for that. Now, if we're not going to be able to do the garage, then we're probably not going to get a Connex box. So we're just kind of waiting on that. Connex boxes are about $4,000. They are, from what I understand, but from Dawn's telling me, is they're waterproof. We can get some that are fairly nice. They don't there's not anything to rot. We've been watching our neighbors do a couple of Connex boxes that they're putting a roof on and all of that. So the garden is pretty much done at this point, other than getting those raised beds in there. We ordered a tough shed. It's a little bit smaller version of what the other shed was. It's when you walk into the garden, you have to be in the garden in order to get in the shed. It has some shelving in it. The fence is almost complete. It has literally a piece about this big. There was kind of a miscommunication on where to put the shed, and the fence was already in there, and so it's off by about a foot. But Scott's going to make a fix around that, so we'll be fine with that. We did have some of our students, actually 3 of our students, putting together our raised beds. There's a lot of little screws on them, but I think they have 3 of them. So there's already 2 done from a work party. So we have 3 more. So the hope is that Mitch, we do need to burn some of there's just some stuff that we need to burn, and then we can start kind of placing those around and moving the benches in there. So it's also getting the soil in there. We have to work on that. We are applying for a TAP grant with the ESD. That is a grant from the from the Oregon Department of Education. They have 4 grants available. We are not eligible for 2 of them, which was a seismic activity one and asbestos, because at some point either the district, or we haven't, but somebody has already accessed that grant. We're choosing not to go through the district because it tends to be the district tends to make sure that they've got the grants, and then we're kind of second in line for that. So the ESD is this is the first year that they've had ESDs be able to apply for grants. One would be for a facility assessment. It's $40,000, up to $40,000 that we could have somebody come in and give us a good look at our facilities and what we need to do. And then some long range facility planning, which is another $40,000. So it just would be nice to have somebody come in and look at our buildings and just and the land that we have and what can we do for that. Calendar, there's no changes for the 24-25 calendar. The 25-26 calendar, we're kind of started to meet with MTA to begin to draft. The hope is to have the draft ready for February. Now, the little kicker is that our 4-day school week, and whether or not that's going to happen or not. I'm still waiting for Lisa Stevenson or Lisa Kaysberg to get back to me. If you look at the surveys, the staff is for it, the parents are for it. The biggest hang up that we have right now is transportation, is how to make that work with transportation. Mary Ellen and Lisa and I kind of talked about if I can't get transportation to work, is maybe doing sort of a little hybrid. And that would be maybe adding some days on and then having a Friday off once every trimester that's not an in-service day or anything like that, just a day to have off. I think Northwesco does this, and they call it a wellness day. I also know that Hood River does it as well, and it's just to kind of, it would be, as I think it was Julia had already told us this, that our calendar already has a lot of Fridays off, and so maybe we don't go for all the Fridays off, but maybe we just throw in a couple more Fridays in there. But that would mean increasing our school. We'd have to increase like 15 minutes of time somewhere in there. So Transportation, I'm working on clarifying the arrival and departure times for the 25-26 school year. I also did let them know that we have a staff member that's interested in becoming a bus driver. And so at Corbett, we do this a lot where they drive a bus, they park the bus, they come in and they do some EA work, and then they take the bus home. So if I haven't heard back from Lisa about how that would work out for us. So upcoming events, January skate night, the 24th and the February 14th. We have no school on Monday, the February 17th for President's Day. Last day of the trimester is March 6th and assessment day is March 7th, and there's no school for students. Questions?
On the March 6th and March 7th, there's no school, or is it
So March 6th is their school. That's just the last day of the trimester. So that's kind of where they cut off for grading. But March 7th, there is no school. The teachers will be busy doing their assessment. So teachers work, but classified teachers are working, classified are not working on that day. So I do always try to give them an opportunity, like if they want to work, because we always have plenty of work to do in the school. But generally they don't take it. So they like that day. They like that Friday off. So.
Thank you. So our enrollment seems to steadily be increasing. Go ahead, Julia.
That was packed with a lot of really helpful and good information. There's a lot there to unpack. I'm excited by the prospect of another middle school teacher and being able to grow the middle school and also provide those teachers some relief from covering all as much as they do, which I think seems much needed. Exciting to hear the preschool is growing. I have been just personally really invested in figuring out transportation and 4-day school week and those kinds of options and calendar, and just really appreciate your tenacity and not letting some of those ideas go. And I would love to know, it seems like my sense is, and others can correct me if they feel differently, is that where we had the greatest consensus just community wide was on the start time being too early, particularly for kids coming from the Dalles. And so to me, like, that's the low hanging fruit and the first thing to maybe try. This is just my opinion. I don't speak on behalf of you or the board, but that to me is something I would just love to see us explore and understand as we think about budget, the cost of it. You know, if we prioritize having our own bus run so that kids could arrive at school, leave the Dalles at 7:30 and arrive at school at 8, and school could start at 8, like what would that cost us? And at least speaking for me, I would be really interested in trying to cover that cost for our Dalles families in particular, but for all of our families. And to me, that also starts to shift the school day towards that 4-day week. And I did count, I think we have something like 21 Fridays off this year or something. So we are many weeks, we have 4-day weeks. And I think when you did the math about how many days over what was required by Oregon, we were quite a bit over. But I might be misstating that. So there may be some possibility. I like this hybrid idea too. I thought that was intriguing.
Yeah, I just, I don't know, just working. If we could get a bus that we could have kids, we could start at 8 o'clock or even 8:15. We do have a late bus that comes at 4 o'clock. So we would have to see if they could bring us 2 buses though, because we have 1 bus in the morning and 2 buses in the afternoon. So that I know we can. And we talked about the fact that we could still end school like at 3:35 or 3:40. And then kids could, like the parents that pick up their kids could pick up their kids. And then we would have to figure out something to do for, 20 minutes with the kids that are ride a bus. Put them in the gym, have an extra recess outside or something. So if I can get that bus in the morning, I think that's our linchpin right there. If we can get that bus in the morning, that's kind of what's going to be whether or not we can make this 4-day school week work. So we do have plenty of time in there. I think we have an extra, I think I was just looking at, because I was looking at the hybrid thing, part of it, because I'm like, if I can't make this work, how can we do a little bit of it at least? And I think there's, I'm just kind of playing around with the calendar right now with that. I think that, we do have plenty of time. I mean, we have extra time, but like Dan tells me all the time, we are, we only have to legally provide 900 hours. It's one of the lowest in the state or in the nation. So we don't actually want, I mean, I don't think I want to drop hours down any more than right now we're over 1,000 hours. So we do have an extra 100 hours. We're going to get lucky this year, though. They're getting lots of instructional time this year because we're not having any snow days, darn it. We've only had a 2-hour delay so far. So, yeah, but we do have to kind of make sure that we always kind of buffer for that as well.
Emily, sorry, we go a little bit out of turn, and I hate to harp on that, but I watch my brother's kids in California school system and where they're at and what they're studying, and so I see the difference in real time. And I know that, I just want us to stay away from the minimum because our academic rigor in Oregon is nowhere near other states. So I don't know how they do it, but somehow they do. Go ahead, Emily. Right now, yeah. After you start talking, it picks it up. So just be loud initially, and then it'll start. It's like you're in a tunnel.
I know, keep talking because it's like a tunnel and then
Okay, let's see if that's working any better. My question is, yeah, Michelle, you mentioned that the surveys are looking like both the parents and the staff support the 4-day week. I was just wondering if we have seen the results from those surveys, because I don't think I have seen the most recent with like an increased number of respondents.
I showed them last, I think, was it last in December? I can't even remember when I showed them. Since that time, we've had more staff input.
Staff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the piece that we hadn't seen, was the increase in staff.
I'll bring that up. Just keep talking.
Okay. And then, yeah, and my other question was around if we shift to a 4-day week, how does that impact the start time?
Oh, on a 4-day week, especially if we're usually want to start around 8 o'clock, 7:55, 8 o'clock. We probably would be good at 8 o'clock, and then we will go to like 3:35 or 3:40. With that, especially the K3, they would have in the morning, they would have a scheduled, we called it snack. It was breakfast. So breakfast wouldn't be at the beginning of school like it is now. They would go right to class, but then they would have like probably a 10 or 15-minute go, and Richard would really like this, where they would actually get their food and go sit down and eat it, and then they would go out to recess. And then they would also have a lunch at a lunchtime, like more like around 11 or 12, because we eat lunch at 10:40, which is a little bit crazy to me. And then they would also have an afternoon recess. That's different for middle school because middle school does need more hours than and so does the 4-5. They also require a few more hours. So they normally, 4-5 will normally have the morning recess, and then they'll have lunch and a lunch recess, but they won't have an afternoon recess. We also talked about, because one of the things was this whole sporting thing for the middle schoolers, even though the Dalles doesn't really offer a whole lot of sports. But, just to do that is to have like their specials at the end of the day. So that if they needed to leave early, they could, and it doesn't impact their academics. So I would say that would be, I mean, the time I'm used to is 8 to 3:30, 8 o'clock till like 3:35, 3:40. So I'm going to keep looking for the results.
Marie, you had your hand up, so while we're
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say I've been enjoying this discussion, and also I just want to echo what Dan mentioned about instructional hours, and I've been doing some research to, understand where we are in Oregon compared with other states in the country. And I've been reading that there is a positive correlation between instructional hours and academic achievement. And there seems to be about a 3% increase on average for every hour of extra added time. That's just something I thought was interesting. So anyhow, it seems like everyone's on board to, maintain the bar high for the number of instructional hours. I just thought I'd share what I'd learned. It's always nice to find some correlations out there.
Thank you, Marie.
Marie, if you'd be
Jill-
interested in sharing that with the board, that would be a great, unique selling proposition.
Yeah, like sharing the document.
Yeah.
The source.
It's an article from Science Direct. I'll forward it over after the meeting.
I'm going to share.
Oh, go ahead, Michelle.
I'm going to just share really quickly. So this, and it got a little strange because we had to add a couple of the Spanish things to it. But for the rating of too early or just right, 20 out of the 52 people actually thought there was 53. Anyway, so somebody must have not rated this. 27 people said that it was too early, and 25 of our families said it was just right, our start time. So, which I thought was kind of crazy, but and then for the 4-day week, if you can look at this one, 10 people out of the 53 do not like this idea, and 3 are kind of like it's not that great, and then 8 are right in the, like it doesn't seem like they care one way or the other, and then we have 6 and 26 that out of the, so more than half give it a 5 out of the 53. I have sent this survey out, I can't tell you how many times, and I finally got a list from our Power Schools people of actual emails, and I've been just directly sending it to the people that once they respond, I take them off a list and move them over, and I just kept sending it out to the people that hadn't responded, and I've done it for just directly 3 times. I figure if they haven't responded this time, I don't think I'm going to get them to respond, so they're done with me.
Do you feel, Michelle, like those 10 or 13 there that are not on the dislike category, you feel like they may be worried about what they're going to do for Fridays, and we have a plan in place for that, for clubs and things like that?
I think that definitely, I know that Becca with, having like opening up the preschool, and it would have to be, I don't know that we could make it free, but we could make it fairly inexpensive, to drop in your kid, on a Friday or something. But again, we did that at, like, everybody said how like I can't do anything, like I need to have Friday school, and then we had YMC came in, and then nobody used it. So I think it's one of those things, you don't know that you can make it work for your family until you actually have to make it work, or do make it work, and then everybody figures out a way around it. So most of them didn't have too many concerns. I'm going to stop share. I'm going to try and find the teacher, the staff. It's not just teachers, it's the staff one.
While you're doing that, Julia, you've had your hand up a couple times.
I was going to start the idea of having a special meeting on this when we've got the transportation info and the cost info. I just think it's a big topic. The calendar for next year, the start time, the transportation. And I think we're in the window of where it's still feasible to do something that isn't just what we've done every year. But it's a closing window. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to probably make huge progress tonight. We need some more figures and numbers, but maybe what do folks think about a special meeting?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's also, I appreciate that, Julia, in the want to always try to keep things moving along. I appreciate the timeliness. Like this is a big agenda tonight anyway. So I think it would be good maybe to table this discussion for a special meeting so that we could really delve into it. And at that point, I think also identifying what the larger concerns are for the people who don't, like I think I'm not worried about the people who like it. I worry about people who don't like it, and I'm trying to identify those concerns to mitigate that so that if we do make this change, we accommodate them in some way.
Yeah, so
And
this
also,
is, the staff one is 20 responses and it's, the certified staff did, yeah, it was on there. So if you look at this, we had 3 staff members that definitely did not like it. 1 that thought it was not like it was kind of bad. And then 2 that again, didn't really care. 3 that, liked it, and we had 11. So, and that's out of 20 staff members. So again, more than half really did appreciate it. And if you really look at it, you're looking at 11, 14, 15, 16 that are, scoring a 3 or higher on that. So, but some of the things is, I think, I said I could go either way with it because I do not, like, it's not horrible that if I need to leave at 3, it's nice, but man, those Fridays off are pretty nice too. So but there's a price. You have to stay till 4:30 to make that happen. So. Anyway.
Go ahead, Marie.
yeah, I would love to know from the MTA, Michelle, Jen, everyone in the building, meal wise, how the 4-day week would impact some of the children who may be most benefiting from the meals offered by the school. Just so that in the eventuality, if there is a shift, that we can make adjustments to make sure that those kiddos are adequately resourced.
Mm-hmm.
So having a sense of the need, that I would personally really appreciate that for future discussions. Thanks.
Yeah. Are you ready to move to the next agenda item?
Special work session on this. Does it need to be within the next couple of weeks?
I don't think so. Not yet. It needs to be before we schedule. We have finalized. I think the first thing will be determining what our options are with transportation, and then we'll be able to say when we know what those options are, then we can schedule a meeting.
The hope would be the first week or 2 of February. Because we have to get the calendar up and going and out too, and make a decision, so.
Okay. We'll be as timely as possible on that.
It might impact enrollment, and I mean, I'm a generally optimistic person that it might be in a positive direction. So I know it's a deterrent to some Dallas families, the start time. So it'd be an advertising point if I can channel McKenna, if we can find a way to start a little bit later, for example.
Yeah. All right. I look forward to more discussion on this. Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
So I'm wondering if we are going to do that work session. Michelle, can you send us the 2 documents that we just looked at ahead of time so that we can kind of wrap our heads around it all and look through it? And then do we need an action item of setting up that meeting?
I don't think so. No, we
Not
can just
yet.
I can
Okay.
just call the meeting whenever. You know what I
Okay.
mean? So
Sure.
I'm gonna try and summarize the information and get it out to you. That was on my agenda today, but instead I was serving lunch.
Oh, not summarized. I think that would save you work, and it's helpful for us to read through it.
Okay, I'm just gonna send you, I can just send you the link. I'll just make you all collaborators. So just don't mess with the results. So.
that brings us to item number 10, which is our policy update. And I'm gonna transfer over to my email real quick so I can bring all those up. I summarized them just with the abbreviations that OSBA uses, but that doesn't mean anything to anybody that looked at the agenda. So I'll pull that up here in a second. All right, so our policies that we have up today for our second reading there are 5 that are a second reading. And for anybody who's not familiar with the process, you have a first reading, a second reading, and then adoption. The policy committee met, that is Emily, Marie, Michelle, and myself, and went over kind of our large list of policies that we have, where we are as far as our adoption of the policies, and kind of get us on track so that we can get caught up on all the things we need to adopt. We have policies that are required, highly recommended, recommend. There's a whole category of each one. So for tonight, and I guess as an aside, there was a judge's ruling that nullified some of the changes that were happening with some of the policies that we read ahead of time. So that was I don't remember if it was a judge out of Alabama or someplace, but basically we were going to adopt a bunch of new policies. Those policies are no longer being adopted per OSBA's recommendation. So get back to it. In our group of policies that are here for second reading, we have EFA local wellness. The first reading was in June of 24. AC, our non-discrimination and civil rights policy. Our first reading was in December of 24. Policy IL is in our assessment program. And our first reading was in December of 24. Policy JHCD for medications. Our first reading was in December of 24. And policy JHCDAR, which is the administrative, the rules for that, which is the medications follow-up. And that was December of 24. With that second reading of those policies, I propose that we adopt those 5 policies as reviewed. Can I get a second on that? Anyone? All right, Marie, thank you. All those in favor of adopting those 5 policies? Any opposed, please voice your opposition. All right, that takes care of the Group A policies. Group B, which are policies for our first reading, we sat down and read through all these in the policy meeting and just looked at where there was language that needed to be changed or language that was optional. We adopted what was appropriate for the school, forwarded those on to the board as a whole. So you have your first reading of policy EBBB, which is illness and injury reports, GBNAA, JHFF, which is our suspected sexual conduct reporting. And this is an important one for Oregon as a whole right now, based on some other news we see from other school districts. JHFF GBNAA, which is another suspected sexual conduct reporting requirement. Our family leave policy, which is GCBDA and GBDBA, and the AR1 that goes along with that. And our stalking leave policy, GCBDC and GDBDC. Sorry, that's a little tongue twister there. Along with the following AR that goes along with that. So there's 7 policies in total there for our first reading. Members, please look those over before the second reading as well, just to make sure you don't have any questions. Tonight would be the first time to raise any questions you have, but if you find something later on that concerns you, please reach out to one of us in the policy committee. Any questions regarding those policies? I had one today when I was reviewing them again, just to ensure that our employee count was appropriate for one of the policies, and it is. So it's just good to read over them and make sure that you understand the details. The email is in your inbox if you need to see it. Any questions on policies before we move on? Thank you all on the committee for working through this. It's a lot of work. I think we were there for 3 or 4 hours to get through them, and there's a lot more to go, but we'll be up to date. We'll have a process. Each meeting, we will intend to have a second reading and a first reading. So we'll have a second reading in our next meeting of the ones we covered today as a first reading, and we'll meet as a committee before the next meeting, the next general meeting, regular meeting of the board, and we'll have another select amount of policies for our first reading, so we can just get ourselves on track and continue that process. All right, that wraps up policy update. Our next action item is the ED evaluation format. Michelle and I sat down and went over kind of what was the compilation of a few things we talked about. And I don't know if I sent this out to everybody. If not, I will get it out. 1 second here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see that? Is it too small?
It looks good.
Okay. So we went with kind of the original things we were talking about in the last few times we discussed this. And I'd like to get this out and approved so that we can move forward with this and stay on track. We're a little bit behind right now for the ED eval, but it will be familiar to us with the process that we had in our last ED eval, and just that the goal, and Michelle shares, is just to have something that's easily that we can look at, that's easy to understand and score, but also getting input from staff, so that way Michelle can be as reactive and proactive with her staff as possible to make sure she's meeting their expectations. And so multiple standards here. Standard 1 covers mission, vision, and core values. And this is a shared document. We'll forward it out to all the board members if you don't already have it. Standard 2 is instructional improvement. And there are a number of different evaluation tools out there. This takes the parts that are applicable to our school and our position. Our ED is a blend of what would be a superintendent and a principal because of the tasks that are put on her. So it needs to be something that it covers that. And if anybody wants to discuss anything along the way, please let me know, but I'm just going to keep moving through. Standard 3 is effective management. I'll just read the first blurb here. An educational leader integrates principles of cultural competency and equitable practice and promotes the success of every student by ensuring management of the organization, operation, and resources for a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment. 4 is inclusive practice. The leader integrates principles of cultural competency and equitable practice and promotes the success of every student by collaborating with faculty and community members, responding to diverse communities' interests and needs, and mobilizing community resources in order to demonstrate and promote ethics, standards of democracy, equity, diversity, and excellence, and to promote communication among diverse groups. Ethical leadership. An educational leader integrates principles of cultural competency and equitable practice and promotes the success of every student by acting with integrity, fairness, and an ethical manner. A socio-political context. The leader integrates principles of cultural competency and equitable practice and promotes the success of every student by understanding, responding to, and influencing the larger political, social, economic, legal, and cultural context. HR leadership involves managing and fostering the school's workforce to create an environment that supports student learning, teacher satisfaction, and community engagement. And you have your score and comments. So board members will have these. This will just be one of the parts that's used. Michelle, do you want to speak to your experiences in the past with these kinds of reviews? And then also we've used surveys in the past from OSBA and for our staff. It seemed fairly easy. Kristen Miles helped us do that. What are your thoughts on that?
Last year was the first time I'd ever even been evaluated as an administrator. I wasn't evaluated prior to that. Yes, I mean, we looked at another one and it was just so complicated. This seems like it's a little bit more straightforward. There are some like duplications of this, and I think Dan, we also talked about kind of teasing out a little bit more of the financial thing, and I think that was in Strand 3. Effective management, because I think we talked about adding one more line that talked a little bit more about the financial part of it, because that does seem like a pretty big part of the job. making sure we're, staying fiscally responsible in what we're doing. I kind of felt like the inclusive practice and the standard 5 might have, maybe, I guess it was standard 6.
Yeah, they do have some things that seem to be overlapping. Yeah.
And I feel like we could probably collapse one of those a little bit. So one would hope that I am an advocate for children and families
Yeah.
and and I don't know if that could be said something better up there, but it seemed fairly like if everybody had one of these, they scored it, and then we got an average, then that would kind of know where my, strengths and weaknesses were. So my not yet, when you're
Yeah.
not there, so.
I think it's a challenge for the board as a whole, because a lot of the board, the board sees certain parts, they don't see everything, right? And so it's important for the board here to do this, but it's also important to elicit the response from staff and people you work with every day, so we get a more well-rounded picture.
And I think something like this, and then either a staff survey that was sent out, because I think that was something that we had talked about at the beginning, is I just know personally as a teacher, and also when I was an administrator, it always seemed kind of odd to me that, well, I know the board is my boss, but it would be nice to get feedback from the people that actually deal with me daily. That I, making sure that I'm like, they see me as on the right track, or there's things that I need to work on. So they're going to be the people that would let me know that too. So.
Yeah, thank you. That the openness and understanding of that is so important, and I really value how you focus on that. Just the fact that like my perspective is we are always working for those that are our subordinates, and even though they're our subordinates, they're the people who are important, and they're who. That's why we're here. We're here for the students, but we work out from there. And I know you keep that as one of your approaches, and I appreciate that.
Right. I mean, really, the job is to make sure that we're, as long as the teachers, to me, it's just like mine is to be supporting teachers, because if I'm supporting teachers, they're the ones that are really, like on the front lines, making sure that the kids are supported. So.
I think today showed that as well, right? We hear from the MTA and the work that you all did to come together. So, any board members have any questions on any of these standards? I think as we move forward to, you're evaluating on what you've encountered, right? You may not have access to all these things. You may not be able to see all that, but what you have, when you look at a standard, you're evaluating based on your experiences with the leader. And most of that comes depending on if you're in a committee or any part of that, you see those things through those interactions. So that's, you're not making inferences or guesses about other things that you may not know about.
Should we add a not applicable then, or not to my knowledge?
You could, but what you're looking for here is, when you look at these standards, the things that you've seen of those standards, say with standards 1, for example, you have 6 things there. You can evaluate on the ones of those things that you've seen, right? It's not possible to have seen everything. All board members have different interactions, but you're looking to see where you have interacted and evaluate based on that. And you can also obviously put in the comments not applicable, and a no score at top will not affect the survey, other than the number will affect the average if there's less numbers. You know what I mean? So
great.
But yeah. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll get that out now that it's presented here, we'll get it out to all board members. If there's any suggestions on any further changes, and just raise them to the board and to Michelle. I do think there's a lot of overlap in some of those. There's a lot of things that I think it's like they have the same wording, but it's, how, is aware of this, or how do you, some of them to me are buzzwords that are very popular right now that are being used in administrations all across the country. And it's just the nature of how it is. But, if we can if we see ways where we can change it to be more tailor fit to our school, I'm happy to try and do that. Any other questions or comments on the EDE eval format? We have an action item there, is to adopt that document. Michelle, do you feel like we're at a place where we can do that and board as a whole, or do you want to have more work on that? I don't want to get too far behind and be another month behind is I guess my concern over it. I think, for me, I feel like we can adopt it. If there's small changes that come up, we just have to bring it up.
But yeah, maybe we just like adopt this one and then use it and then make notes about how to improve it for next year. Cause I think for me personally, like, unless I've actually like seen it or used it and then I always make notes about how we can improve it for next year. That could be a possibility too. So.
Okay. Any other discussion, board members, before I make a motion? I'll make a motion that the board adopts the ED evaluation format as shown in the meeting, along with staff surveys. Thank you, McKenna, for the second. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice or opposition? That motion passes. That brings us to item number 12, which is board training, public meeting law. There's a new rule for 2025 that all boards must get board training on public meeting law at least once in their term. So once in your 3-year term, or if you were elected for a partial term, once in your partial term. Did everyone see the email that Marie sent out on this? There's a link in there for a public meeting law training that OSPA put together. But we can also get another, if you can't make that, you can also get another one from OSPA as well. Or there's other options out there. Go ahead, Marie.
I've heard back from 2 board members. And this is a great opportunity on February 6th at 5 p.m. because it's free. It would be nice to avoid scheduling a special meeting for this because it will cost, probably around $700. So this would satisfy the requirement pretty quickly. There is the other option if folks can't make February 6th through the Oregon I'm sorry. The Oregon Government Ethics Commission does have a website, and you can individually go on there and schedule your own training at a time that's convenient for you. So that is the other alternative. So I would appreciate if everyone just got back to me, and if you're not able to make the February 6th meeting, the free webinar offered by OSBA, let me know and I will send you the information about the OGEC and how to sign up there.
Marie, do you mind just sending another email out just preemptively and saying, hey, if you can't make this, let me know. That way members who aren't here right now will get it, but also just as a whole, you can just track it with that one email and then we'll have a plan going forward. You know what I mean?
I can send it out again. Yes.
Thank you. Hold on a second. That brings us to item number 13, which is committee reports, fundraising, and the event slide. McKenna, I'm happy to show the event slide again. We showed it at the very beginning of the meeting. If you'd like me to show it again, I'm happy to do that. It's up to you.
That'd be great. Yeah, just want to
Okay.
make sure everyone knows about skate night is happening on Friday from 5 to 8. And then we have starting the very end of next week, February 1st will be our readathon, and we'll be sending home some paperwork soon for parents to get their kids registered. We're going to have a student created t-shirt design that all kids will be able to get if they are registered on the readathon website. So those are the 2 biggies.
On skate night, I had heard a little bird in my ear here saying something about maybe dress up. Is there dress up at skate night?
That'd be news to me.
Okay.
Sometimes
sometimes that's the way it
got
happens.
canceled was supposed to be the Christmas sweater, but I think that just got canceled because of the weather.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I just wasn't sure. I was being asked to get out costumes and I don't even know where the costumes are. So
You should definitely wear a costume. Sorry, I don't know why I said that.
I'll have to find them.
Excellent.
All right. And anything more on fundraising that you want to cover? Or are we good? We haven't had any events between now and then, right? Since our last meeting. Okay. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate all the time you've put in. It's an impactful meeting. We got a lot done. So thank you. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a second? Thank you, McKenna. Meeting's adjourned. Have a great evening. 2 hours, everyone. Good job.